Hello.
How are you guys doing?
We're excited again.
Yes, we get to expand on the Eros love and have some, examples from the Bible. So excited about talking about those stories.
I know. We have three, I guess you would say couples, right?
Yeah.
Three couples that we're going to talk about. And remember last time we said Genesis, what was it, 24? 2:24?
Yeah.
About we become one flesh. And that's how that happens, and that's how Eros works. And of course we need all the other types of love that are combined to make marriage. And so we talked about that a little bit last time, but that is philia, agape, and storge. Oh, I said it. And then I know, and then eros.
Yeah.
Eros. Yeah.
Eros.
So, which is that love, romantic love. And so we're going to talk about, and we're going back to Genesis again, but there's a beautiful love story there. And this is what I think so cool about it is it's the contact. To me, it's the look, and that's what they talk about. It's like the first scene. That's right, love at first sight.
Yeah.
And so we're going to do Isaac and Rebecca. And just to give you a little bit of background is Isaac's father is Abraham, and he had lost his wife Sarah, and he wanted Isaac to have a wife that was not, from the foreign, wife, and so
not the Canaanite or
that's
Moabite
right.
Or
he didn't want
like
any of the communities around them to be part of that because he wanted the line. That's what he was supposed to do, and so he sent the servant off to where his brother was, or Sarah's brother was. I think it was up there in that area where Laban was one of the persons that were talked to. And so when he sent the servant up there, he found him. And there, it's kind of a neat story. You should really read it because it was a divine appointment.
Yes.
He met her before he went, the servant met Rebecca before he actually asked that he could take her back and be Isaac's wife.
Yeah, and obviously Abraham, got this message from God to tell the servant that, hey, when a woman approaches you and offers to water your camel and give you water, then that is the person that I am, giving my blessing to be with Isaac.
Yeah. So, Isaac's a pretty important person in the line of Jesus.
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit. So they came together and her father agreed, and so here they are on their way back. And I'm going to read, and this is the cool part, is that, they don't know each other. I'm not sure. Isaac probably knew that the servant was going off to find a wife. I don't know. But you kind of get the feeling that maybe he does know. But his mother passed away.
Yeah, and they've all have been in foreign lands that don't have their own Jewish people to them. Yeah,
and this is the point, is they are not, and what they're asking him to do is to get someone that has like faith. And God says the same thing for us as in our marriages, is that you marry someone that has your same faith.
Yes.
And it's not,
so because you're equally yoked.
Equally yoked. Yes. Yeah, so that's, I wanted to bring that point up as one that just kind of popped in my head.
No, that's good.
So, 24, 62. And now Isaac was returning from, and that's a little funny word.
Oh, yeah.
What was it? Beer Lahai-Roy?
Beer Lahai.
Yeah, you got to do a little Roy. A little roll, not a Roy. A little roll. Yeah, with that. So he was living in the Negev region. In the early evening, Isaac went out to walk in the field, and looking up, I love this part, looking up, he saw camels coming. Okay? So he kind of knew something was up. So then in 64, Rebecca looked up, and she asked, and she saw Isaac. So she got down from her camel and asked the servant, "Who is that man in the field coming to meet us?" I guess I did a little lilt, didn't I? But I thought maybe that's the way she said it.
Yeah.
And the servant answered, "It is my master." So she knew that definitely that's who she was supposed to be with. So she took her veil and covered herself. And then the servant told Isaac everything he had done. So she was like, I looked up veil. I didn't talk about this, but I looked up veil a couple weeks ago or last week for our study that we were doing, and it's a covering. It's something that separates. So he was, in my mind, she was not ready to appear to him.
Well, I mean,
so she's separation. Yeah. So she had a covering. So there was a separation between them two at that moment in time.
Yeah.
But verse 67 says, and Isaac brought her into the tent of his mother Sarah and took Rebekah to be his wife. Isaac loved her.
Yeah. I definitely think that's Isaac and Rebekah is one of the best love stories in that respect. It becomes a divine appointment. I mean, all of them are.
All of it.
But
yeah. If we're listening, they're all a divine appointment. Yeah. If we're listening, yeah.
And I forgot what I was gonna say.
I don't know, but it's the look.
Yeah.
I love it. It's the look. It's the look. It's the wink. I've heard couples talk about the wink. That's just like your own little private. Like it's gonna be okay, or like I see you. It's like I see you over there.
Yeah.
And so that's Abraham and Rebekah. And so we have another couple.
Or Isaac and Rebekah.
Isaac. What did I say? Abraham. Abraham's the dad. Abraham's the dad. Then Isaac, and then Rebekah. So anyway, that's one story, and then we have another one that is like completely different.
Yeah.
And she goes into like a preparation to be presented.
Yeah. To
her suitor. So you want to give a little backup on that?
Yeah. So at this point, the Jewish people are in captivity. And Esther is this, young Jewish woman in the town, and you hear from the king that you hear from the king that he is not happy with his wife, with his queen.
So she's like,
because he's like, okay, you didn't come say hi to me when I wanted you to. Okay, bye.
See you later.
She didn't come when she was called, and so he was extremely angry about that. I know in Esther, it said that, after all these things, when the anger of the king had abated, he remembered Vashti, which was his queen, and what she had done and what had been decreed against her. So they had made a decree that all eligible young women in the kingdom are to be presented before the king.
Yeah.
And so you have Esther, who is, a beautiful young Jewish woman.
Yep.
And she finds favor with, everybody in the palace.
Yeah, she must have been absolutely, gorgeous because everybody loved her. And her demeanor must have been.
I was about to say, yeah. Yeah, she had to have had such bravery, humility, and just kindness to be...
Sweet spirit.
Sweet spirit, yeah. I like that.
So she did this for a year.
Yes. Yeah, they had this
for a whole year
pageant.
Preparing.
They had a pageant for a year.
And they all hung out together.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And so when Esther was taken to the king in verse 16, into his royal palace in the 10th month, in the 7th year of his reign, the king loved Esther more than all the women, and she won grace and favor in his sight more than all the virgins, so that he set the royal crown on her head and made her queen instead of Vashti, because Vashti did have the opportunity to regain her throne.
Oh, that's a new one for me. I didn't realize that.
I know. I was rereading this.
I know. I didn't ever hear that. So yeah, cool.
Yeah. So
a little nugget.
He made Esther queen, and just by the sight of her and just how she was, we were talking about the love at first sight.
He said he loved her. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, he loved her, and it led to the protection of the Jewish people.
Yeah, and so that was another good piece of that story, is because, again, she was not supposed to go to him, right?
Yes, later on, she basically did the opposite of what Vashti did. She wanted to go in front of the king without the permission
of the king
instead of not appearing before him.
Right.
So she wanted to appear before the king, and even through all that, he probably should have been very angry because he's the king
But he looked at her again. She stood in the, like, I would say, like in the foyer or something like that, and he saw her and he looked at her and
he's
again,
like, I can't.
His heart melted again. Oh, I can't tell her no.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so in that instance, this plot is discovered, and all of
she saves her Jewish people, saves the Jewish people.
Yeah.
So pretty cool. That's a pretty cool one.
So I mean, Eros love saved the Jewish people.
That's right, Eros love. Yeah, because I mean, you think about it, it's that look. The look. So the third person, couple that we're going to talk about, and we did talk about this in the store day.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It was Ruth and Naomi. And of course when, Naomi came into the city where they were traveling to, she was like, they called her Mara. They were all happy to see her,
hey,
and she's
Naomi,
like, hey.
She's like, no.
Yeah. No.
Call me Mara. I'm bitter.
Yeah,
no.
Not happy. Lost a husband. Lost 2 sons. I'm here just trying to survive.
Yeah.
So she was not happy. Yeah. So this is what's cool about this story is that, you go and they call them a redeemer. Of course, it's a reflection of it's a reflection of Christ. He redeems us, but he had to go. So she's out there gleaning all this. They don't have a place to get food, so she goes in the field and she's gathering all the.
Yeah. When people, the servants are harvesting for those people that own the field, a lot of the times they allow widows to glean the leftovers, basically. Right. And so she's in the field of Boaz. Who
is a kinsman, right?
Yep.
And much older, as well. But let's see what verse I wanted to read on that. And so, let me read this. Let me say this part first, is that Naomi found out who it was. She knew he was a kinsman. And so she tells her to go in quietly and lay at the end of the bed.
Laying at his feet.
At his feet. And that's like servanthood.
Yeah.
It's like, you're the lowest of low or something, and you're going to lay at his feet and stay there and be still. That's kind of what she says.
Yeah.
And so here's what happens. This is in Ruth. She has a book
She also has a book.
She has a book. And in chapter 3, verse 8, it says, at midnight, Boaz was startled, turned over, and there lying at his feet was a woman. It was an exclamation point. Sorry. So he asked, who are you? And she says, I am Ruth, your servant. And she said, take me under your wing, for you are a family redeemer. So she's asking for that.
Yeah.
And then he said, which I think is so sweet, may the Lord bless you, my daughter. You have shown more kindness now than before, because you have not pursued younger men, whether rich or poor. I mean, he probably felt very unworthy, didn't he? Kind of, in a sense. I don't know.
Well, I mean, she came from another,
She
culture altogether.
was another culture, but she went with Naomi because she believed in God.
Yep, because she was faithful.
My God is your God.
Yeah.
Where you go, I go.
Yeah. Yeah, so she was faithful, and he was very surprised that she would be so faithful to her mother-in-law and to God in that way. So he's like, well, okay, that's great.
And so she did become his wife. Let's see, 4:13. But he did, where does that, 4:13? Oh, 4:13. I'm looking at 3:13. I was like, I already read that. So Boaz took Ruth, and she became his wife. He slept with her, and the Lord granted conception to her, and she gave birth to a son. How sweet, a son.
Yeah.
And in the line of Jesus. And her son's name was Obed, and Obed had David. No.
Jesse.
Yes. And then Jesse had David. Yeah. So the women's, I know, and I love those connections, don't you? And what an amazing thing that God uses the most unlikely circumstances to bring about what his design, what his plan is, right?
Yeah.
And he can use all of us, right?
Yes.
And so the women said to Naomi, Blessed be the Lord who has not left you without a family redeemer today. May his name become well known in Israel. Little did they know, right? And he will renew your life and sustain you in your old age. And indeed, your daughter-in-law, who loves you and is better to you than 7 sons, has given birth to him. 7 sons, and that's a perfect number. Oh, you know, it's perfect and fulfilled. This is kind of what I said. Naomi had a sense of being full with a child that represented God's provision. Yeah. Although she was bitter.
Yeah.
Although she became better.
She was bitter, but now taken away from her.
Yeah,
but she was given so much more.
Yeah, it's almost like grace, right?
Yeah.
She was given grace, even though she
wanted to be
just
left alone
and was bitter and upset. And I can understand that when things happen and life doesn't turn out the way we want it, and our expectations are one thing and what happens is another, and we don't always understand why something happens or why we have loss, why we have, some of it is our own creation, some of it is not. It's just part of
this world
and part of us being, a beginning and an end, right? Yeah. And her husband and her 2 sons had a beginning and an end, and it was sooner than she anticipated, and it caused her to be bitter, but God redeemed her life, redeemed Ruth.
Yeah, through that marriage.
And then through that marriage we have Jesus. Yeah. What an amazing thing, and God used all these people.
Yeah.
From the ones that had, maybe a better road than someone else, a better path that they were able to travel. And then there's some that it's a little harder.
A little bumpier road.
A little curvier.
Yeah.
But, so anyway, that's our love stories.
Yeah.
For Eros. I said it finally after 100 times. Eros. And there's many more in there that you could pull, but those were the ones that we really saw that, I don't know, just felt warm and fuzzy.
Yeah, they were great examples of Eros. And just God's love for his people.
Yeah. And they were supposed to be together. That was God's design and his plan. Yeah. So, yeah. So there you go.
Yeah. So we'll be talking about another one next time.
Yes, and we will catch up with you, and you have a great week, and spread some love, right?
Yeah.
All right. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.